Our next session, we've actually got Ben Jeffries of Influencer. He's the CEO and co-founder, along with Casper. He's going to be talking about Covid-19 and how it's propelled brands into an era of influencer marketing. It should be another great session. Once this session's finished, we're then going to have the quiz. So make sure I've just literally seen in the chat room some of the prizes that are up for grabs. So you definitely want to make sure you're part of that. But now I'd like to welcome Ben Jeffries, everybody.
Amazing. Perfect. Firstly, I want to say a massive thank you for having me today. I think this is my third year speaking at Social Day, and every year I'm consistently amazed by how the conference just keeps growing from strength to strength. Stuart, Lucy, and the rest of the team, you're absolutely smashing it. So really, really appreciate you having me, and hopefully you'll invite me back next year. But now, before I discuss our research report with Global Web Index on how COVID has propelled brands into the era of influencer marketing, I wanted to give a very brief introduction into who Influencer actually is as a business, for those of you who actually don't know us. So we're an influencer marketing solution that essentially combines human creativity with intelligent global data to build meaningful relationships between brands and creators. I set the company up with my co-founder, Casper about 5 years ago, and we've been really fortunate enough to be recognized by the likes of Digiday for best influencer marketing technology, as well as even Forbes for Forbes 30 under 30. Though the real brains, I must say, are back in HQ, where the team has since grown to over 60, and we've welcomed some of the best talent across the UK, Kiev, and our New York offices. As a business, we've created a purpose, which is to make waves. And it's basically an idea that's been seeded in the fact that our creators tell stories that build real human connections, which sets off certain waves of influence. So you'll start seeing this all throughout the presentation with the waves. And these waves of influence are essentially our data layers, of which we measure the impact. So we essentially like to say, us and creators make the waves, and we measure the impact of these waves. We're really proud to be an official TikTok partner, but we run our campaigns across Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Snap, Twitter, and Twitch, and have worked with some of the world's largest agencies, as well as some of the world's largest brands across multiple different sectors. But now I'll sort of dive into our actual research report, which I'm sure you guys are all really eager to sort of hear about. So back in December, we basically, as a senior management team at the company, we were basically looking to see, okay, well, how can we help provide more education within the influencer marketing industry? Because there's so much out there at the moment, but we wanted to provide some real quality. So we sat down with Global Web Index, and we basically produced this whole content strategy for 12 months. And then obviously, come March, COVID hit, and we had to basically throw the whole thing out the window. But having said that, it's been clear to us, for a very long time that creators have become an integral part of people's lives. So we wanted to see how COVID had actually impacted influencer marketing as an industry, but also how it sort of impacted consumer choice, purchasing decisions, and how brands should really position themselves. I think it's fair to say that with creators being that part of, that key part of human life, we rely on them for meal inspirations, for news updates, for morale boosting content, and even for product recommendations. I think we can even go as far as saying we feel sad when they go through breakups, and we relate to them when they discuss mental health, and we even feel proud when their children start school. And never has this been so clear to us since the outbreak of the coronavirus. And we basically turned to our creators to help fill the void left by the friends and families that we haven't been able to see up and down the country. And, coronavirus hasn't necessarily created a new normal of more meaningful relationships between creators and consumers. It's essentially just propelled where influence marketing was going to go, but just speeded it up. So as I mentioned, we're very, very proud to partner with Global Web Index to quantify the new normal of influencer marketing. And one of the key topics to do with this actual research report was that the sample of people we used were actually people who follow influencers on social media and not just celebrities, before you ask. So this was really to help make the data much more contextually relevant for everyone. The presentation will really only scratch the surface for the data that's in the report, and the full research report is actually on the website at influencer.com. So to go into sort of what we initially found within the research report, I'm sure, much like myself, everyone's been sort of sent a weekly update on their iPhone about how their average screen time keeps increasing. Well, why, you ask? Well, it's because social media usage has massively spiked, and it's really set to last. So during the outbreak, many consumers have undeniably more time on their hands at home. It's largely been because they've had, or they're restricted from their day-to-day normal activities. So as a result, they've been seeing, what other sort of entertainment can I actually do to occupy my time? And this was clearly reflective in the fact of their social media behaviors. So our research found that 72% of consumers say that they were spending more time on social media per day since the outbreak of coronavirus. Within that, males and females were equally spending more time on social media. But where it got really interesting was this wasn't just within the Gen Z category, where that was 84% of people were spending more time on social media. It was also within the baby boomers and Generation X. So it was seen that across all social age groups, was social media time actually increasing. Now, that was obviously during the outbreak, but obviously we wanted to find out what the effect was post the outbreak. Now, it becomes particularly interesting as nearly 2/3 of consumers say that they would spend more time on social media, or to the same extent that they were using social media during the outbreak once restrictions were lifted. And this wasn't just reflective in Generation Z, as you may expect. It was also reflected within baby boomers, as well as Generation X and millennials. So I think it's very fair to say that social media has evolved into something more than simply passing the time or catching up with friends. It's now a way we can discover entertaining content, we can discover new products and services, and also we can interact with brands. And this obviously creates a massive opportunity for brands and creators to reach and engage their followers, who are now much more engaged than ever, because the time that the followers are actually giving to the brands and the actual creators is obviously much more, which obviously helps create stronger engagement. Now, we can see, obviously, as I mentioned, that social media usage is consistently increasing across the board. But in terms of what type of content consumers actually want to see from the consumers that they follow, we found that consumers want to see much more around how-to tutorials, memes and funny content, and short-form videos. There are some generational differences within this, with Generation Z wanting more memes and funny content, towards also the behind-the-scenes looks at creators' lives, which is notably higher than other generations. Now, it's really interesting because we took this research and we used it in some of the live campaigns that we've actually been doing with brands. So we worked with Malibu on a campaign and we encouraged fun meme content. So we did a campaign where we tried to inspire creators to talk about holidays that they would be going on and sharing the behind-the-scenes sort of looks about how it would look as a holiday from home. We also took how-to tutorials with one of our clients, Superdry. And with that, we got various creators doing live streams and doing how to do workouts at home as well. So we took this research to be able to empower the campaigns that we were actually doing. And it's really important for brands to really consider this within their target audience so they can work with the right creators and maximize engagement on the campaigns that they're actually doing. Now, in terms of which social networks were actually relevant before the outbreak, and actually are still relevant post the outbreak, we wanted to understand what consumer preferences were. So overall, the top platforms that were across all age groups were YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And it was very clear that YouTube was across all age groups the favorite. I think this is quite usual because because people wanted video-based content, and the breadth of the content was the key driver. I'm sure you're asking here, what about TikTok? Where's TikTok within this frame? But this is what we actually looked into when we found about TikTok. It was the largest social network that people weren't using before the outbreak and were since using. So I think it's fair to say around the world, people were jumping on the TikTok train, trying to get creative, producing the funny videos, and dancing to the latest hits. I think I'm very shamelessly able to admit that I've tried a few TikToks. Please, no one try and find them on TikTok because they are very, very cringeworthy. But it just shows that how, a number of people were turning to TikTok to, I guess, pass the time and enjoy new waves of content. And, we've obviously subsequently seen the launch of Instagram Reels come out as well. Our data as well, which was really interesting, didn't just show that TikTok is a platform that people wanted to use. It was also one of the leading platforms for people to find new creators on. It was really interesting that number was 10% of consumers in the US started using TikTok to follow creators, but that was as high as 17% in the UK. As would have been expected as well, TikTok usage jumps for the younger generations. Close to 2 in 5 generations said that they've used TikTok before the outbreak and are still using it to follow creators today. And we asked those who said that they started using the social media platform since the outbreak, how likely they were to continue using it post the outbreak. And that figure was close to 80% of people who started using TikTok said they were continuing to use TikTok post the outbreak. So I think it's quite clear that TikTok is not just a lockdown fad, as many people try to claim it was, and that TikTok does have a really strong staying power within the social media industry. I guess that would also ultimately depend on who buys them. But undoubtedly, I think TikTok, with its core business model and with its core content types, it's become a very, very popular social network, which we're starting to see some really exciting content pieces on. Now, we also looked within the research report how we would understand the role of brands and what consumers could expect from brands in the future. We wanted to understand what trends consumers really wanted to hear from brands as well. So we found that consumers wanted brands to be informative, to be a source of positivity, and to stand for something that and have a purpose. Also, one key thing was that they wanted to have brands to have more of a personality and feel much more human. Obviously, by generation, we looked at this even further, and we found that being informative was the top desirable action by millennials, Generation X, and baby boomers, as it says on the screen, while Generation Z wanted brands to be much more purposeful above anything else. This shows in particular that Generation Z want brands to go beyond just providing that base information and doing so much more. Now, I don't think this is something that was just born realistically out of the pandemic. It's a sentiment that has realistically been growing for some time, but under the circumstances of the pandemic and its economic implications, it's a sentiment that has certainly been propelled. Younger generations are more likely to be negatively impacted by the current economic situation, whereas Generation Z weren't old enough to even remember the 2008 recession. Brands, though, can establish a more meaningful connection by having a more human and personal touch, which is what we've seen is really, really important across these generations. In the face of financial struggles and increased desire for brand purpose, this is where the creators can show their real power. Creators can give brands that empathetic and human element. As Generation Z increasingly compose the lion's share of the consumer's base, and it's now more important than ever, where building credibility amongst consumers will pay dividends for the future. I've mentioned already in the report how we've highlighted how social media has moved purely beyond just being a social activity, and it's instead now becoming more of a one-stop shop for consumers' daily needs. As a result of this evolution, we've seen social media become a space to discover new brands and all the way to research fresh products, and even incomplete purchases, which is something that we've seen TikTok and Instagram make serious headway in. Now, 1/3 of all generations say that they discover brands through ads seen on social media. And as ever, I would never tell a client movement to move all of their marketing budget or their advertising budget over to solely social media or influencer marketing. It's so important to have a balanced marketing budget so that you're hitting your consumers at all ends. Influencer marketing is just the perfect complementary marketing form because of the amount of social usage consumers are spending these days. Generation Z have said, though, that in particular they are more likely to discover brands through social media, with 30% saying that they discover brands through recommendations or comments in social media, compared to just 20% of baby boomers. Now, unsurprisingly, older generations are much more inclined to discover brands via TV rather than social media. But even amongst Generation X and baby boomers, ads seen on social media are still a key source of brand discovery. So it shows that influencer marketing and social media marketing is not just for Generation Z. One thing which our data has clearly shown here is that 4 in 10 say that the value obtained from discovering a product through creators comes from seeing the product in action. So in terms of what type of content should the creators actually be doing in terms of a branded content advert, it's really showing what the actual product actually does in action. So this was the top cited reason across all generations, apart from Generation Z, interesting enough, with 27% of this group agreeing. Instead, Generation Z cite being able to find products they wouldn't have been able to have actually found being more valuable at 31%. I mean, who doesn't want to be the influencer within their friendship group, having found a new product which their friends aren't wearing at the moment, and that their friends will start to wear or actually use? Ultimately, though, Generation Z stand out from their older counterparts that they recognize influencer marketing's unique ability to provide well-targeted products and services. This sentiment is reflective in them being less likely to say that influencer marketing's values comes from providing an offer or a promotion compared to other generations, such as Generation X, but more likely to say that they trust the endorsement. Again, this highlights influencer marketing's unique ability to advertise in a way that is welcomed by an audience, and not just for a financial incentive, but because they know it's a well-targeted and provides an authentic opportunity to see the product in action from someone they trust. So influencer marketing shouldn't just be seen as a way to give out discount codes or certain offers. It should be a way that followers can discover new products and services that they hadn't been able to perhaps find before. Now, the outbreak has accelerated many existing trends at high speed. The CEO of OMD Worldwide, Florian Adamski, basically summed this up as saying, we're seeing a turbocharged version of human evolution. And one of those, of course, is online shopping. I'm sure, not just in terms of fashion shopping, but I'm sure other people are guilty with the amount of perhaps delivery that they've ordered over the last few months as well. But one thing which has been a really growing trend is the success of live shopping that we've seen over in Asia. And now Instagram have also announced that they're bringing this over to the Western culture. So it's really exciting to see how that's going to excel shopping and online shopping, should I say more precise. Generally, consumers, though, are more motivated by factors other than just an endorsement by the creators they follow. However, when looking at followers who say that they have discovered brands through creators and influencers, that's when we really see the creators' impact come to light, based on what I just mentioned on the previous slide as well. Around 1/3 of this group say that they're motivated to make a purchase via an endorsement by a creator and influencer they follow. And it really shows the power about how to engage followers effectively at the awareness stage, because it shows of high importance when they're further down the line in the purchasing funnel, because they respect the influencer's initial endorsement. Now, in terms of what the actual key takeaways are from this, because I appreciate this is a lot of data I've just basically thrown at you guys. But as I mentioned as well, all of this data is online within our research report, and I've only taken snippets from a long 36-page document. But what does this actually mean for brands? Well, my 5 key takeaways are that time on social media has increased and it's expected to last. People won't be reducing the amount of time that they're spending. This has basically created unseen rates of, how low CPCs are, how low CPMs are because of that increased engagement on social media, because of the increased time people are spending. Content needs are changing, and so are behaviors. People are wanting different content from their favorite creators. People are wanting different behaviors from brands, but creators within this are seen as the pillars of support. Creators are also playing a key role within the purchase journey. People are turning to creators to find new products. People are turning to creators to see whether the creators trusted this brand. And followers' purchase behaviors show considerable potential for certain categories, as we've said, with online shopping, but also the whole new scene of live shopping as well. But as I just mentioned, you can read more about this report at influencers.com. But please, obviously, do let me know if you have any questions, and really appreciate you listening to me ramble on for about 25 minutes. And that's me.
Hey there, Ben. Thanks for that. Brilliant talk.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Our pleasure. So you see, you've got the report, and people can access that by. Is there a website where to download it?
Yeah, literally just go to influencer.com and you'll see on the top banner it just says research report. So just click on that, and you can download it straight through there.
Brilliant. Well, we've got a bit of time left. Actually, I just wanted to pick up on something you mentioned, live shopping. I wonder if you could just give us a bit more of an insight into what that is. It's not something that I've come across as yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So live shopping is basically, it's like the old QVC networks ultimately, where essentially it's creators becoming shopping channels ultimately. And it's become a massive thing over in China where creators are basically just spending their whole time on their channels offering certain products to their followers, but they're teaming up with fans to offer these products at a discounted rate. And this is basically seeing people obviously create thousands upon thousands of sales. And it's working really well in China for the simple reason that they can do one-click purchasing from these live streams. And then, until basically a couple of weeks ago, everyone was wondering, well, how is this going to work over in the Western world without one-click purchasing? Obviously, Facebook monitoring trends and things like that have announced that they're launching Instagram live shopping, where as a creator, you'll be able to have a live, you'll be able to talk about a product, and people can add the product direct to cart from the actual live, from the actual Instagram live. So that's something which is really, really exciting, which is coming out. And obviously it'll be great for creators because it's a way which they can earn additional revenue through obviously a more performance-based model. But also it's a way which creators can provide, new products to their followers. And I suppose it really stems on that point I was mentioning in the research report, which was saying, people turn to creators to find out products which they wouldn't have necessarily found before. So it's a way which they can turn to the followers to find out which products the creators are using.
Do you know what? I'm going to have to give Lucy some credit here, which is going to pain me. When Facebook Live came out years ago, we should totally be doing like a QVC thing here on Facebook. I just laughed at her, and she reminded me the other day that somebody else was actually doing this now, and it was becoming a thing. So, okay, yeah, you got that one. Fair enough.
I mean, it's the exact same. So Casper said it to me maybe 2 months ago. He was like, live shopping is going to become massive in the UK. It's going to become massive in the Western culture. And I was like, Casper, I just can't see it working within the West. And then literally preceded by, weeks worth of articles just coming in saying how it's going to be this massive boom. And then we spoke to our friends over at Facebook, and they were like, yes, we're launching this here to come do it. And I was like, oh shit, I was wrong as well myself here. So yeah, I suppose it's something which doesn't seem like it could work, but trust me, the power is absolutely crazy. And I think, where we'll see the real power is not just with the bigger creators, it's with the smaller creators who have those niche communities who follow them for these specific reasons.
So you did a fantastic. Your research is brilliant, by the way, and some fantastic insights in there to the consumer behaviour and the brands. But how have influencers had to change during the pandemic? Especially the guys that you work quite closely with. What are you picking up from them?
Yeah, I mean, it's undoubtedly been a really hard time for creators for multiple reasons. Obviously, a lot of creators been unable to be, going out and actually creating the types of content that they were creating before. A number of travel creators who are perhaps going around the world, had all these trips booked to, take all this content, were of course unable to. So a lot of creators we've seen have adapted their content styles, or perhaps learned new skills and started talking about these skills as well on social media. But I think what's been fantastic is we've seen a massive shift in creators producing much more authentic and honest content, because ultimately everyone's now in the same boat. Everyone was in a period of lockdown, so everyone just wanted to know how people were during that time, and people just wanted to see how they were getting on with their lives so that they could I guess learn new skills and ideas themselves. So we've seen creators adapt that way. I think it was a interesting period, should I say, between April and May within brand collaborations, because I think there was quite a lot of hesitation with clients putting stuff on pause, waiting to see what the effects of lockdown would be, which obviously meant that a lot of creators were having their campaigns put on pause. But I think especially in the last 2 months, we've just seen an absolute rocket of campaigns going live. We've seen brands being really innovative and creative to really get the brands back out there in the forefront. And it's just incredible to see the confidence that we're seeing back in the market, and creators producing some absolutely fantastic content as well.
Brilliant. Ben, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. And if anybody wants to go and get a copy of the report, visit the influencer website and go and download it. It leaves me now just to give you a warm round of applause and say thank you once again for joining us on the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Stuart. And yeah, best of luck with the rest of Social Day. I'll be watching in.
Brilliant. Another great session. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually blown away with the amount of content that we've had on day 2. I'm going to go have a big beer now and actually take part in the quiz. So make sure you go to the Falcon booth and you get signed up and come and join us at 6 p.m. And we'll see you here again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it.